Hello and welcome to another lesson from Soflex Math. Today we're working on double-digit divisors. So remember the divisors on the outside, and it has two digits. So everything we've done up to this point has been just 3 or 4 or 7. Now we have double-digit numbers. So these are a little bit trickier. A lot of kids don't like to do this. So I'm going to solve 3 problems in this lesson. The first way I'm just going to use the standard algorithm. The second way I'll use that hang 7 method, and then the third way I'll use estimation. So once again, hopefully one of those 3 ways will work for you. So with this one, instead of looking how many 2's go into 5, we have to look at the first 2 numbers. So we're going to be looking at 23 and 57. So how many 23's can fit into 57? So in this case, we're going to say 2. And this is a little bit of guess and check. So at the beginning, you might just be guessing, and if it doesn't work, you have to redo it. So you really have to persevere, which is one of our mathematical practices also. So anyway, 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. So we're just going the exact same way you would have done if it was a single digit divisor. So 7 minus 6 is 1. 5 minus 4 is 1. Same thing, compare, and then let's bring down. So our next problem here is how many 23's can fit into 116? Well, I'm going to estimate a little bit. I know 5 times 20 is 100, so I'm just going to take a guess and say, how about a 5? So 5 times 3 is 15. So put down the 5, carry the 1. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So that's pretty close there. All right, we're going to subtract again. There's nothing else to bring down, so our remainder is 1. So our answer to the standard algorithm way of solving it is 25 remainder 1. Okay, and remember to go ahead and, if you want, you can go back and check it. So 25 times 23 plus 1 should equal 576. It's always a good idea to go back and check your answers. It could be a little time consuming if you have a bunch of problems to do, but if you're taking a test and you only have one long division problem, I would definitely maybe solve it 1 or 2 ways, and I'd also use the multiplication way to check it, because then you're guaranteed to get it right, because you'll basically have solved the problem 3 different ways. Okay, so let's try another long division or double-digit divisors problem using the hang 7 method. Okay, so this time the hang 7 method with our number 8014 divided by 51. So remember, this time we're going to also do some estimating, use some rounding, some compatible numbers, some powers of 10 to help us solve these a little bit easier. So when I look at this problem, remember we're going to want to start with tens or hundreds. Those are good starting points. So I'm going to start with 100 because I know the place values. So I'm going to go ahead, remember we write our answers this time over on the side. So I'm going to write 100. So 100 times 51 is 51 plus 2 zeros. So we're going to go ahead and subtract, so that's going to take a whole bunch away. So when we subtract here, 4, 1, okay, 0 from 1, remember we can't do, so we can borrow. So it turns into a 7 and a 10, so we get a 9, and then 7 minus 5 is a 2. All right, so we've made some good headway here. So we now have 2,914 divided by 51 is basically our new problem that we're going to work through. All right, so I might not know what to pick here. So, I can't do another 100 because that's way over. So let's just start with a 20. And we might have to do this more than once, and that's okay. So I'm going to start with a 20. Why? Because I know that 10 times 51 is 510. So if I double that to 20, I can double 510. And hopefully that's mental math, where I can write that then as 1020. So I want to use some mental math strategies as well as I work through these problems. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract again. So I have a 4, once again borrowing. It becomes an 8 and an 11. So we have another 9, an 8, and a 1. Okay, now the other thing we want to do is use some of the numbers we already had. So if I used a 20 and know the answer, well, I know it'll fit. Let's just use a 20 again, because that saves me a little bit of work, because I can just rewrite our previous answer of 1020. Because I knew if the answer was correct here, it has to be correct here. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract again. So I'm getting a little bit closer. I'm now down to 874. All right. Well, 20 is not going to work. So now let's maybe cut that in half. So this time I'm going to choose a 10. So 10 times 51 is 510. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract that. And sorry, I'm going to have to make a new column here. So let me just rewrite where we're at. So we're at 874 minus 510. Alright, so when we subtract that, we get a 4, a 6, and a 3. Okay? So here's our line. That's part of our 7. Just pretend that's the 7 continuing. Okay? So we have 364. So now we have to make another choice. So, well, another 10 is not going to work. So what if we tried half of that? So a 5. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 5 is 25. So see how some people right here, they might have chose 40 and that would have got a little quicker. Some people might have chose 50. That would have definitely went a lot quicker too. So you can kind of choose which numbers to use as you're working your way through this. So not every person in your class, in your group, will solve it the exact same way, but hopefully everyone will end up at that same final answer. All right, so let's continue on. So we have to borrow, cross that out. Another 9, 0, and 1. So now we're at 109. All right, well, 5's too many. 1's probably not enough, so I'm going to go ahead and try 2. Because I know 2 times 50 is 100, so 2 times 51 is going to be 102. Which leaves us with a 7. So our 7 is finally going to be our remainder. So now what I have to add up is all these numbers. So 100, 120, 140, 150, 155, 157, remainder 7. So our final answer up here is 157, remainder 7. So take a look there. I'm sorry I had to go into 2 rows there. That's a little tricky, but pretend that this and this was all lined up in 1 row. It would be a lot easier to see there, but we're still doing the same thing. So 100 plus 20 plus 20 plus 10 plus 5 plus 2, and then we still have a remainder of 7 that we can't forget about. And in one way, it's good that it has 2 columns here, because sometimes when you're working on a whiteboard or with these problems, you might run out of space. So notice how I just rewrote that last part to keep track of it, to make sure I was still on the right track. All right, so let's try one more example, a final example using the estimation method. All right, our third and final problem, we have 4,237 divided by 27. So once again, in this problem, we're going to be trying to pick some numbers like tens or hundreds also, and we're going to be kind of writing them up above this time. So it's very similar to the hang 7 in a way. We're just going to represent it a little different. So I'm going to go ahead and start with 100. So 100 times 27 is 2700. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and subtract 37. You can borrow 3 and 12 is a 5. And then 3 minus 1, I'm sorry, 3 minus 2 is 1. So now we're down to 1,537. Okay? So let's do half this time. So we're going to do half. So we did 100 and got 2,700. So if we do half of 100, we're going to get half of this answer. And once again, we can kind of work on mental math. And if you can't do that part in your head, you can feel free to write a little problem off to the side, 50 times 27. So I was able to do that in my head, but if you weren't, here's what I actually did. I just did 27 times 50. So I just kind of just some scratch work over on the side. Okay, 0 times anything is 0. 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 2 is 10, plus the 3 is 13. So that's where I got that 1350. Okay, we'll go ahead and subtract again. So we end up with a 7. Borrow 87. 4 minus 3 is 1. So now we're down to 187. Now, same way. If 50 was 1350, if I just did a 5, I cut the 0 off here, I can just cut the 0 off here. So once again, mental math. So we want to use some of our previous answers to help us out. Okay, so when we subtract this, okay, we're going to get 2 and a 5, or 52. All right, and now we got to keep going. So we're going to say how many 27s going to 52. So I'm going to choose one more. So 1 times 27 is 27. Go ahead and subtract. Once again, borrow if you need to. So you can try these as mental math. If you need to borrow, feel free. Okay, and now we're down to 25. That's less than 27, which tells me that's the remainder. And we're just going to add up what we have. So 100 plus 50 plus 5 plus 1. So 155, 56. So our final answer is 156, remainder 25. So take a look at that one for a moment and see if that makes sense as we go through. Remember, with all of these, you can always check your work. So once again, last lesson of this third unit of division is going to be some word problems. So we're going to go through both 2 different types of word problems as well as something they call interpreting the remainder. So sometimes they give you a problem where you have to not only answer the question, but you have to explain what the remainder means. So we'll talk about one of those word problems as well. Once again, thank you for watching Soflex Math, and we'll see you in the next lesson.